and welcome to day one of the Rise of the Rebel Matriarch. Today, for this beautiful session on Wounded Maiden to Warrior Woman, I am joined by two of my incredible co-authors in Rebel Ma Healing in the Time of the Feminine. And we've got the gorgeous Rachel Chandler here, who is tuning in from Brisbane, Australia. And Rachel is a gorgeous guide for mothers. She is the most incredible sacred activist, and she has a passion for guiding mothers back to their inner radiance. She is the founder of Seeing the Mother and a certified Matrescence coach and women's circle facilitator, creating nurturing, uplifting spaces for women to rediscover their feminine wisdom and become the firekeepers of their own hearts, fostering a sense of belonging and sisterhood through personalized coaching and group circles. Rachel helps mothers unveil layers of self-criticism and societal expectations, empowering them to embrace their embodied selves. Her approach, rooted in compassion and intuition, honors each woman's unique path with the gentle reassurance of a trusted friend. And I can definitely vouch for that. You've been such a beautiful supporter for me and cheerleader in my corner when, you know, I'm going through the trenches of entrepreneurship and midwifing women through their own rebirths and writing books. So thank you, Rachel, for being such a gorgeous confidant and cheerleader and friend. And you are there based in tropical far north Queensland with her partner Glenn and two children. And Rachel cherishes moments in nature and is an advocate for social justice. Whether marching for change or wandering through the rainforest, Rachel embodies a heart-led life, inspiring others to nourish their feminine essence in matrescence and motherhood with joy and authenticity. So thank you for joining us, Rachel. And the beautiful Debbie is here, tuning in from Scotland. And Debbie is a spiritual entrepreneur with a mission to make the world a better place through supporting women in their spiritual journeys and entrepreneurs in sharing their wisdom. She champions an abundance marketing approach, encouraging collaboration over competition among entrepreneurs. Debbie began her career as a social worker in South Africa before emigrating to the UK in 2003 and now living in Scotland. In 2021, she expanded her expertise by becoming a certified master NLP and hypnosis life coach. Through the challenges of establishing her own online business, Debbie developed a strong skill set that includes web design, copywriting, SEO, best practices, marketing, launch skills, and course creation. She now uses these skills to support other entrepreneurs to expand their reach and heal the world. Debbie has a son, Lucas, who is her inspiration and driving force behind her desire to create a better world. So that is beautiful, Debbie. Thank you as well for finding the time to come today to share our wisdom around the wounded maiden and how we can move from that, you know, wounded place into the warrior women that we were born to be, to rise as the rebel matriarchs. And I think we can all relate. We've been in that wounded feminine space where we're reactive, where we're you know, self-sabotaging, where we're playing small, where we're waiting for someone else to save us, I guess. And it's a journey that we all need to go on to be able to find out that, you know, there's no one coming to save us, that we must save ourselves. And it all happens and begins within, I guess. So I'd love to maybe pass the mic to Rachel first and, you know, explore for you what you believe the wounded maiden is, or the patriarchal feminine, as we could also speak about it, and give us a little bit of a snapshot about what that kind of means for you, or how the viewers can relate to that archetype.
Yeah, thank you. It was so nice hearing you read back my bio. You know, to have someone else reading that felt really lovely. So thank you. Yeah, so the Wounded Maiden, I always think back to this quote from Clarissa Pinkola Estes in her book. Let me just turn that phone on silent. Women Who Run with the Wolves. And she talks about how you know, women have died 1,000 deaths by their 21st birthday. And, you know, she's really talking about all the ways that we get blocked and stopped and told that we're too much or not enough, or all, you know, all the expectations that are placed on us as women, and how we're told that we need to be something different. And so there's these parts of us that we bury, and that's the wounding. You know, that's those wounded parts of us that we bury, because within the patriarchal culture, you know, the patriarchy wants to bury the feminine, really wants to control, dominate, and bury the feminine. And so we, within a patriarchal culture, we internalize that as well, and we say we're too much, and we bury those parts of ourselves. And so really coming into maturity as women is learning to love and cherish and mother those beautiful parts of ourselves. And I'm actually currently doing a teacher training, which is a Maiden to Mother teacher training by Sarah Durham Wilson. So I'm not a master at this in any way, but it's sort of work that I've really explored a lot in the past couple of years, and I've found it so really, really empowering in the way that you know, there's so much more self-compassion and love for the parts of me that sort of come up, rather than me trying to push them away or bury them deep down. There's this curiosity and invitation to, you know, really look at what parts of myself are needing that love and mothering, self-mothering. So, yeah. So I think in terms of actual, you know, wounding, we're all going to have different wounding, depending on our life. And for me, definitely sort of the perfectionist, people-pleasing, and they're all strategies to, you know, to make sure that we're included and loved. And but I think they can be really, we can outgrow those things as well. You know, we need to sort of outgrow them, because, you know, with people pleasing, it's like we sacrifice our own needs for others. And when we're in our mature feminine, we're really looking at, what do I need? You know, what are my values, as opposed to the cultural expectations and pressure that we're placed under.
That's a huge one for sure. It's like, you know, claiming what it is that you need, and not feeling like we need to people please and abandon ourselves, you know, and abandon what our needs are and for everybody else. So yeah, I love that. That's a really, really beautiful highlight. I think the people pleaser within us has got to die on our journey to stepping into the mature feminine, you know, but it's from a different lens, you know what I mean? Like there's caring, and there's nurturing, and there's, you know, mothering ourselves and mothering others, but it's when it's coming from a not a wounded place where we need validation or approval or be a martyr or give, and you know, it's actually bringing ourselves back to that sense of we're nurtured and we're given from the overflow, so we're not stuck in that sense of overwhelm, you know. So I love that. Beautiful. And tell me this, Debbie, what would you know, how would the wounded maiden play out for you? What are the parts of you that may have been wounded, and how you kind of transmuted them to become the woman you are today?
Thank you. And I just wanted to say, same as Rachel, like having you read out my bio, it's like, is that really me? So I'm stepping up to claim that and say thank you. But yeah, I think very much like what you've said, Rachel, you know, I grew up in South Africa, as you said in my bio, and it's a conservative country in terms of cultural beliefs and societal norms. And I think for me, you know, I grew up obviously conditioned in that, and there was no other life path for me than to meet a man, get married, and have children. And that's what I went along. I kind of came across to the UK, and that did maybe open up my eyes a little bit more. But yeah, I got married, had a child, and you know, after a few years, realized I wasn't very happy. Wasn't unhappy, but wasn't happy, and something wasn't quite right. So we separated, and it was the following year that I then came out as gay and realized actually all my life there'd been signs that you know, that I was a lesbian. And I don't know that if I had stayed in South Africa that would have ever been not an option. I had no frame of reference growing up, so that was a massive thing for me in stepping into who I am. And it was a difficult process. You know, I think 28 at the time, and I think, you know, so many of us grow up in different parts of the world with different cultural norms and expectations and societal norms and expectations. So our experience and our conditioning is very different. And, you know, sometimes, unfortunately, it's not until we step out into a different world or we meet somebody who can guide us, you know, beautiful people like you, Rachel and Saoirse, and all the beautiful women that are part of this Rebel Ma Rising movement. And I think for me, you know, tapping into, Rachel, what you were talking about the wounded parts, and you know, I got goosebumps when you said that you die 1,000 deaths before the age of 21, because that's so true. And I think a lot of my healing journey over the last 3 to 4 years has been around, you know, healing those wounded parts, but also not healing them for the purpose of they then disappear because they're kind of healed. And, you know, it's about they're a part of me and acknowledging that. And yeah, sometimes those wounded parts will still come up because we heal in layers. And I think I wrote about that in the book as well. We heal in layers. And so you think you've dealt with it, and then another situation comes up that takes you a layer deeper. So I think it's really important to say that, you know, all your shadow parts, all your wounded parts, they're all part of you. And it's about, you know, your identity as a person and as a woman and as a mother, that, you know, you are all of those things, and all of them are beautiful, and then made you who you are today. You know, again, I spoke about the fact that, you know, every situation, every decision, every reaction to a situation has led you to where you are in this very moment. And that's important because your life would have looked very different. And the other thing that I wanted to say was, I've lost my train of thought now. Something you said, Saoirse. Yeah, I think it's just the people pleasing bit. That's right. Yeah. And I think for me, you know, I learned growing up that, you know, I was only worthy if I was useful to somebody else, which for me is even a deeper layer of people pleasing, because, you know, if I wasn't doing something for someone, then I felt invisible, essentially. And I think, you know, it's really important to kind of, you know, people pleasing is a general term that we use, but there's so many different layers of how that looks for people. And, you know, that we need to kind of work from that. And my very first women's empowerment transformational coach that I worked with over nearly 4 years ago now, one of the things that she talks about a lot is that self-care and self-love is giving the best of you and not what's left of you. And it's so important, you know, that bit of filling your cup to overflow so that you can fill others from that abundance, rather than, you know, you can't pour from an empty cup analogy. Actually, you want to fill yours so much that there's just so much love and nurturing pouring out from you that you can then fill others' cups. And that totally takes that, you know, me being worthy because I'm not useful to somebody, or just, you know, filling other people's cups and serving from that place of like having to please everybody as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Absolutely. And, you know, for me, I think with the Maiden, like, it wasn't in my 20s. I had a very fun Maiden kind of time in my life, you know, and I was the forever Maiden, I guess. I think they call it, we were talking about it earlier, Peter Pan syndrome, you know, where you don't actually want to grow up. And I shined and thrived in my Maiden era. And I think it wasn't until I had children and it was letting go of the Maiden part of me that I found really, as much as I loved motherhood and I loved the transition, but it wasn't until a little bit into my motherhood journey that I realized I was still holding on to a lot of parts of me that needed to die. That for me to really feel liberated in my motherhood, I needed to let go of the person that I was, the freedom that I had, you know, the spontaneity that I could enjoy, especially in my relationship with my partner. I think there was a big transition for us from going from the party animals, always having the crack and flying around the world for festivals, to, you know, being rooted in a one place, and you know, going into our spiritual entrepreneurship journeys too, you know, and then everything getting a little bit serious and a little bit heavy, and losing touch with that maiden kind of spontaneity and joy and fun that I used to have. And that's the kind of journey of matrescence too, isn't it? If I'm saying that word right, I don't know, I might be butchering it, but
Matrescence.
matrescence, yeah, like adolescence. It's like, you know, it's dying and letting go and shedding and shredding all of those parts that no longer serve you, that are limiting you from really enjoying the season that you're in, you know what I mean? And I'd love to, you know, talk a little bit about that, about, you know, just embracing the season that we're in, and trusting that, you know, yeah, we might not be able to do certain things that we did before, but there's so much more, you know, when we let go of who we were before, and accept the initiation into the next evolution of who we are becoming.
Yeah, I think what's so difficult for us when we become mothers is that, you know, the loss of rites of passage, and Jane Hardwick Collins talks a lot about this, you know, how it's just so damaging, because we've got all this cultural pressure to stay young. You know, there's no one there going, yeah, we'd love for you to age, you know, get older, or take your time, you know, feeling into motherhood. You know, there's just so much pressure to stay young. So I think, you know, we just get stuck. When you talk about letting go, there is the, you know, Arnold van Gennep, who coined the term rites of passage. He identified 3 key stages, and the first one being separation. And then there's this period of liminality where it's like it's really uncomfortable. Like, it's really going to challenge you, and you're going to need to let go of parts of yourself in order to step forward into this new version of you. And, you know, when you don't have a lot of guidance to go through that process, and you have all this cultural expectation not to go through that process. Like, the culture wants you, the patriarchy wants you to stay young, because then you're controllable. You know, they don't want you, it doesn't want you to step into your mother and wise woman, and because then you really know yourself, you know, and you know your mind, and you know your body, and you can't be controlled in the same way. So, and then, you know, you have this period of liminality, which is, it's meant to be this descent into yourself, to, you know, find those parts of yourself that you've buried and integrate them and step forward into the next version of yourself. And women are getting stuck. They're really getting stuck. And, you know, I don't know, when you look around for guides or role models that are sort of showing you the way, it's difficult. You know, if you're put into a mother's group with women who are all at the same stage as you, you know, it's so unnatural. When you look back in, you know, look back, there would have been villages with women of all different ages. And there would have been women, you know, just a little bit further ahead of you, sort of guiding you. And yet we're put in these mothers group, and we're all like, we don't know what we're doing. There's no one there to sort of guide you. And yeah, so women are getting stuck. It's really hard to let go. And letting go is really uncomfortable too, because it's like, it's terrifying. You don't know what's on the other side of that leap of faith or that step forward. But it's also part of your growth and potential transformation. And that's, you know, that's one of the beautiful things about matrescence. Matrescence is rite of passage. And it's not honoured in that way, really.
No, it's not honored at all. And even now, I've got friends that are having kids in their 40s, and you think you're a bit wiser then. You've lived your life. So, you should, and you've waited your whole life for this moment. And yet, there's no support for them. And they're having births that are traumatic, and they're left then with, no village to come home to, because we all don't live close to our families anymore. We've all emigrated. We're in these like, different kind of nuclear families, rather than having the support of the elders and the village and the aunties the way that I would have grown up anyway. And I can feel there's this like, yeah, clinging on to what used to be, but that doesn't fit anymore either. You know what I mean? The old life doesn't fit, and you feel so out of place, and you don't know who you are, and you lose touch with yourself and your truth, and you abandon yourself again. And it's about coming back to, that actual liminal space, that being in that ickiness and accepting it as the initiation it is. But so many women don't know that they're in this initiation, that, they're in this cocoon, in this chrysalis, and they don't know who the fuck they are. They're a big pile of gloop. And they have to become that. They have to melt into goo to then be able to grow their wings and to see things from a new vantage point. And that's one of the things that I spoke to in the book. I think my initiation and seeing the wounded maiden in me was more when I moved out of my, comfortable life in Sydney, moved into entrepreneurship, was juggling motherhood in a different country with also stepping into my power and my leadership. And I was like, oh, fuck, like, shit hit the fan for me, because I didn't have the support that I needed. And my relationship, there was issues there in my relationship, and then I became this kind of, I was blaming, I was shaming, I was like reactive, I was defensive, I was self-sabotaging, and I was trying to be big, but also I felt so small within, and I had this self-doubt and imposter syndrome. Now it's natural, but also that was like a wake-up call for me. I thought I was this really fucking strong, liberated, empowered woman. And then I crumbled, and I was like, oh no, hold on a second. I'm not embodied in, this matriarchal energy. I mean, I didn't know about the matriarchal energy then, but it was all my process of becoming and unbecoming everything that I wasn't anymore, to become the woman that I was meant to be, and to really face off with the truths of what it was that I needed in order to be able to step up into what was being asked of me. The rebel ma in me was asking me to step up, but I didn't have the support that I needed to be able to step up. So then I retreated back, and then I went into all of these wounded places. And one of the biggest things for me was, as an entrepreneur, as a businesswoman, as a mother, like that's the most important role for me, is to be able to be a mother that is present and available, and gentle and nurturing and kind to my kids. And when you're in this kind of like liminal space where you're stretched and you're stressed and you're trying to manage everything, and then not showing up in that embodied way for your family, and then it's like, well, I can't be going out there into the world and teaching if I'm not actually integrated in it and embodied in my own being at home with my own family. And that was the biggest wake-up call for me, to go deeper into this work of healing the wounded feminine within, finding that balance of the feminine and masculine energy, and tending to the wounded maiden within, and all of the different wounds that I've had over all of my life, which, may be so small and trivial in the big scheme of things, and especially what we're witnessing in the world today. But like, just having that tenderness and kindness and patience with the little girl in me, who is reacting from a space of not being seen or heard or loved or wanted, or, all of those little things that, I realized that I was reacting in a way that I wasn't proud of to my little girl, but only being my inner child was being triggered, or, you know, my needs of my little girl and my inner maiden weren't being met. And that was a big, you know, I had to start learning how to reparent myself, how to tend to myself, how to really nurture and nourish and listen to the little child within. And as you say, we can all be quite critical. Well, I know I can, you know, we can be our own worst enemies and our own biggest critics. And when we're thinking that we should be so much more further healed down our path of embodiment, or whatever the fucking buzzword of the day is, and then we beat ourselves up for not being there. We beat ourselves up for taking one step forward and two steps back. And it was when I realized that, like, I talk to myself the way I would never imagine talking to my child in that way. You know, I would never talk to my little girl and be so mean and so critical of her. So I couldn't be like that with me. And the more I tend and nurture and nourish the little girl in me, the more I can actually show up wholeheartedly for my little girl as well, and hold space for her when she's having her moments. So it's all connected, isn't it?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Mm.
That's really beautiful.
Could I come in just to pick up on some things that you said, Saoirse?
Yeah, please
Yeah,
do.
yeah. So I think, you know, I resonated with so much of what you said, and I think, you know, that and Rachel, you as well, you know, sitting in that place of kind of liminality and not really knowing, you know, because you're kind of so in it, immersed in it, that you don't actually know what's going on. And I think, again, like, you know, I'm thinking about my journey of moving from that, you know, kind of wounded maiden to mother, and where I am now and my growth. And although I didn't have the words and the, you know, the kind of understood the processes I was going through, for me, a lot of what I practice now, and what I was practicing, you know, without knowing it at the time, was acceptance, surrender, and presence, and then intuition. You know, so it was, you know, a lot of it is just accepting where you are just now, because you're here for a reason, and it's about then surrendering to that process and allowing yourself to move through that. But for me, the biggest key bit is presence, because when you're present in the moment and you kind of clear all the noise in your mind and all the cultural noise and societal noise, you're able to see what's in front of you. You're able to see the opportunities that are in front of you. And as I've moved through this spiritual journey and awakening, you know, by being present, I have seen the opportunities that the universe has presented to me, people who have come into my world, you know, and even this journey of, you know, a chance conversation I had with Jenna, you know, in February this year. And I'm now an international best-selling author and sitting on this amazing summit having these conversations. But if I wasn't present and able to see what was in front of me and then use my intuition to lean into that and to kind of explore where that went, I would have stayed stuck. I would have still been in that complete, you know, immersed fog and just, you know, feeling yucky. And you know, yeah, it's still uncomfortable, but as long as I am accepting, surrendering, and being present, and then using my intuition to go with that flow, that's so important. Because thinking back on, you know, times in my life where I was, you know, really depressed, really stuck, really angry, you know, as you say, like the things that you described, Saoirse, those outbursts, reacting, you know, I was very much in the masculine energy of the structure, and you know, that's how I created safety for myself. Like things needed to be just so, almost to a perfectionistic tendency. And now, as I'm learning to embrace that feminine bit more and kind of have that balance, because it has to be a balance, you know, I'm able to kind of move between it. And yeah, I can still create some element of safety with structure for myself, but also flow within that, and still allow myself to kind of move as I'm leaning into what do I need right now, who do I need right now, and trusting that that person will come onto my path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And even that sense of safety, being able to cultivate it within, not waiting for somebody else outside of you to give it to you, you know, not waiting for someone else to act in a certain way so that you can actually feel safe to receive, say, you know. For me, there was a big part of my maiden who was the independent woman and who didn't want to be, I guess, held by my man, you know, and provided for by my man. And that's a big thing thing in our modern world today. As modern women, we have been taught, or, you know, we are of the generation that can do it all, be it all, have it all. You know, we're not supposed to just be homemakers. We're supposed to be out there being boss babes, and we're supposed to be the best kind of mothers that we can ever be, and influencers on Instagram and social media, and, you know, all of these fucking things that we're supposed to be able to hold. And, you know, it's really, really hard. You can't actually be it all and do it all and have it all at the same time. You know, as much as I'm an advocate for fucking going out there and going after your dreams, it's really difficult if you don't have the support that you need, you know. And it was, for me, it was like knowing when to slow down and knowing when to allow myself to receive. And because I'm in the most privileged position where my husband can provide for me, so that I don't have to be constantly out there, you know, creating abundance for myself. It's like I found it really difficult to actually surrender into that and to receive in that space and to let him lead in a way that created harmony in our family, you know. And I was the independent woman 2.0, where I just was pushing that away and not allowing myself to just surrender into the safety of the masculine in my family, and feeling like I had to just fucking be it all and do it all and have it all the time, which was just leaving me feeling so depleted and so cut off from my feminine essence, in the sense of being able to show up from that beautiful soft space rather than this harshness, you know.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that independence. But, you know, for a long, long time, I prided myself in being like hyper independent. You know, I would just do everything myself. And you know, coming back to kind of what you were talking about earlier, Rachel, you know, where communities, villages, tribes, you know, whatever you want to call them, we were never meant to do it alone. We never were. And we kind of went down this path. And as you say, it was all those societal expectations of being everything for everybody in every facet of your life. And we're kind of now coming back to that bit of actually leaning into the support, whether that's a fellow, you know, woman, whether somebody in your family, whether somebody in your community, and creating these communities for ourselves. And you know, thank goodness for the online space, you know, because, you know, I've got a fabulous community across the world now that I can tap into for all the different areas of my life that I need support into. And you know, that's so important, as well as creating it, you know, in your real world as well. You know, so I'm cultivating that, and that's really important for me, is to have that sense and you know, to seek them out. And that's the bit where I was saying about being present and seeing those opportunities and saying yes to them and stepping into them, because you don't need to do it alone.
Oh yeah, it's so important, you know.
Yeah, and I think that the presence, you know, Debbie, that you talk about, and Saoirse, you were talking about slowing down. You know, when we need that slowness, because when we're caught in that patriarchal pace, as my teacher Sarah often says, you know, it's this out of body experience. You know, we're so up here and we're so disembodied and disconnected to our intuition, and, you know, it's that really masculine, fast energy, and then we can't be present. You know, I caught myself this morning because I've started in a new role. So it's been a real transition from being at home with the kids with my sort of coaching circle work to now I'm 5 days working for a not-for-profit. And so it's been, you know, it's been a really big transition for me. But I noticed this morning, I said to my partner, he was home with our daughter because she was sick. And I said, do you want me to do, he was going to do some shopping today. I said, do you want me to do a quick click and collect? So I'm trying to get ready to go to work. He's sort of sorting out the kids. He's going to take the neighbours' kids to school still, because that was an agreement that we had. And so then I'm trying to do this click and collect quickly. I get to the front door and I said to him, did I kiss you goodbye? Because I always kiss him on the way out. And he said, yeah, you kissed me, right? But I'm already like at work, picking up the click and collect order later that day. Like I have disconnected because I'm in that frantic patriarchal pace of, I just got to get stuff done. And I've lost that slowness, that presence, that connection, that embodiment. And I think the better that we can get at just slowing down, just, I think we can still often do all the same things, but it is that, it's just that crazy energy that's all up here rather than rooted down into our body. And present slowness, just slow it down, because otherwise we miss stuff. Our vision is like this, and we need to expand and open, and then we can receive. Otherwise, it's all forward, just driving forward.
And I think our nervous systems then become so dysregulated, because I can even feel like myself, I could feel myself kind of going like this as you were describing your day, and I've lived it, we've all lived it. And I watched a video a couple of weeks ago, and it was a bit about slowing down, and it was like doing a get ready, she was doing a facial routine, but she was doing it like this, and she was like, just slow down. She said, even just your daily activities, slow down. And I'm very much like that. My handwriting is awful because I'm scrolling along, and I now, when I'm journaling, I take my time, and my writing's neat, and I slow right down. And so everything that I'm doing, is slow down. And so our nervous system totally kind of regulates, and then that noise disappears, and we're not stuck in that fight or flight mode or freeze mode, and so we can then actually do some of that healing and feel what's coming up for us, and work with that and flow with that. So that was beautiful, Rachel.
Yeah, I've actually just made a playlist called Slow Down.
Oh, nice. Share it with us, please.
It's got all the songs, it's a work in progress. I think there's about 7 songs on there at the moment, but it's like on my way to work, because I've been sort of rushing to get out the door, getting the kids ready, all the things. It's like, okay, it's like anything that we can do, these little practices that rein us back in, that anchor us back into our bodies, just keep slowing it down. And because otherwise you're off, like your day's gone and you're like, what just happened? It's really easy to get pulled into that in our culture. So it's like, what are those anchors for you in your day that connect you back, bring you back home to yourself? And the playlist for me, that playlist goes on when I get in the car, because it's like already I need to rein it in. One of my personal practices is my morning shower, because I'm like, if I don't start in a really sort of grounded way, then the day gets away from me.
Yeah. And one of the things I love to do to connect to that feminine essence is breast massage in the mornings. And it doesn't have to be really long, but even just getting up before the kids wake up as much as I can, and getting into my body, doing some kind of hip thrusts, connecting to the energy of the earth below me, and then coming back around the other way, connecting to the energy of the cosmos above, and really trying to bring that energy in to be the conduit of that, the anchor point between heaven and earth. And then just giving myself a little bit of a breast massage to just connect to that feminine energy and essence, and opening the heart, so that we can actually be from that space of receptivity rather than push out into the world.
Yeah, I love that. There's a little ritual that I do every morning, and I get out of my shower and I'm drying myself, and I'll wrap the towel around me, pull it in really tight and say, I love you, you're supported, you're protected, you're connected, and I like visualize that connected to Mother Earth, connected to Source. And that's, I get goosebumps, because that's how I start my day every day, just with that small affirmation. And it's these small things that take 2 minutes out of your day just to do, and it just really does help to anchor and ground you.
Absolutely.
And it interrupts, doesn't it? It's really, it interrupts that patriarchal pace, and it's an act of resistance in a little way.
Yeah, constantly tending. Like, I actually thrive. I feel safe in chaos. I feel like I'm born to be putting things on the long finger and just making shit happen out of nothing, when you think that it could never happen at all, because it won't happen if I give myself too much time and space to do it. And I'm trying to train myself and teach myself like how not to do it. You know what I mean? Like, stop doing it that way. It's not that I can't do it that way, but it's not as enjoyable in that way when you're just at the last minute and you've got to make shit happen. And my husband calls me like organized chaos, but no, he actually wouldn't even put the organized in. He just calls me chaotic because he's so organized and, you know, takes things slow. But it's funny because I guess it's just learning, you know, how to slow down, how to remember. And we spoke about that in the last call, you know, in terms of just taking our time with washing our face or brushing our teeth or drying our body or putting on oils and moisturizer and just taking our time to slow down, getting out into nature and really recalibrating the nervous system in a way that, you know, you feel safe to be in the slowness, in the receivership, because we all feel guilty when we take the foot off the gas and we're sitting down, you know, to actually chill or read a book or, you know, take some time for ourselves. We can feel guilty about that. We feel like we need to be doing something, you know, we need to be proving our worth with our productivity rather than allowing ourselves to receive the slowness and the pleasure that's available to us in those moments where we make space to be. And that's it. You can get so much more done when you create that spaciousness in your life. I remember when I first heard about that spaciousness, and I was like, that's a load of crap. Like, how can you create space and get more done? Like, I've a list as long as my arm, and I'm never, who's going to do it if I don't do it, you know? And it just didn't make sense to my logical brain. This is when I was first beginning my entrepreneurship journey and being a mother and trying to juggle all the things. But then I realized it is so true. Like, sometimes I would go for a massage and people would sign up for my stuff. You know, it would be like magic in the sense that you don't have to be constantly pushing, rushing, surviving, striving, you know, to be actually achieving anything. And it gets to be more enjoyable rather than enduring the journey. We can enjoy the journey when we slow down, listen, take our time, trust. And obviously you can't just sit back and self-pleasure and, you know, have everything lined up and happen for you like some people in the feminine space would have you believe. But it is about creating the space for you to receive your life, you know what I mean? So that you're not just fucking operating from this chaotic, wounded space where you have to hold everything and you're doing it all on your own kind of thing.
And I think the important thing, what you said there, what came through for me is that cyclical living and working with our natural cycles. And, you know, I only this year really learned about, you know, going into my womb cave at the time of my bleed. And I've been honoring that for the last few months. And oh my goodness, what a difference it makes, you know, just giving myself that space, because I know, you know, the following week I'm so energized and I'm recharged and I can get all the things done and I enjoy it rather than just powering through. And, you know, that bit of like, just like feeling like this is fog and I'm just like trying to work through the pain and the discomfort and all that kind of thing. And now actually I feel so much more productive, and like it just that ebb and flow and working with those cycles makes such a difference.
Game changer. And they should teach us that at school. Like, that is our superpower, you know, to be we are cyclical beings, and you know, we work in cycles, and you know, some even our healing journey, it's not linear, you know, we can move and then we can go backwards and then but we're always in motion. We're not going front and back, and you know, but like that whole learning to work in tune with our cycles and our seasons is just completely changed the game for all of us. And you know, I'm in the middle of organizing this summit and my bleed came and I was like, fuck it, I just dropped everything for a day. And I just, you know, I didn't get to just lie in bed all day. Obviously I'm a mother and I've got stuff I need to do and get up for, but I just took the time to kind of tune in and listen and rest and go to bed early and not stay up, you know, into the night working or not get up early the next morning. And it was 2 days where and nothing fell apart, you know what I mean? Everything didn't end because I wasn't available 24/7 for everything that I needed to do. And now I'm in like machine gun mode, you know, I'm in that week where I'm like, woohoo, it's springtime, I'm blossoming again, and I'm on fire, and I have the energy to hold the space because I gave myself permission to slow down and just bleed. And what is it they say? If you've got a big decision that you need to make or something you want to do, you bleed on it, don't you? And you go into your womb cave and you listen for the downloads and the whispers, and then you take action from that space when you're ready and energized again.
Yeah.
So I think, it's beautiful. Have you got any last, I guess, tips or tricks for the people who are joining us to, really embody that warrior woman energy to, I guess, move if they are in a wounded maiden kind of space, a wounded feminine space where, they're all over the place, they're chaotic, they're reactive, they're defensive, they're, I don't know, there's lots of different things that you can feel overwhelmed. You're just not feeling grounded in your body. And what are the tips and tricks you could give to the women watching to move from that wounded maiden to warrior woman?
Slow down, check in, yeah, just ask, have a conversation with yourself. What do you need? What's going on? Really just, yeah, have that conversation, check in with your body. That is the starting point. Yeah. And sorry, my 3-year-old just came out, so I'm conscious he's just gone into dad. I'm a little bit distracted now, but
That's okay. This is the life of the Rebel Matriarch, and they're all welcome here.
Yeah, and sorry, Rachel, you finished?
Yeah, no, go for it.
Yeah. So what I would add is, find a community, find a tribe of women who can hold space for you and who you can just be with and who will guide you through that journey, just what we were speaking about at the beginning, so yeah, that would absolutely slowing down, and I suppose that presence and seeing, who's around to support me and find the communities, because that has been such an instrumental part of my healing journey, and whether that's online, whether that's in person, such beautiful spaces and learnings that I've had from all these wise women, because we all bring our own experiences, but we all resonate with each other's experiences as well.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. When I kind of went through that, I guess, breakdown, and not even a breakdown, but just, cynicism and self-doubt, and when things were hard, I guess I felt like, oh, I'll come to Bali and I'll live the dream, and I can live this freedom lifestyle and all of these things that you kind of see online, and then the truth of the matter isn't actually that, and it was like, oh, this is hard. This is really hard, this entrepreneurship journey and stepping up and home space for others when life is lifing constantly for you too, and you're beating yourself up for not being so whole and healed. And it was really reaching out to my she-wolf pack of sisters, and leaning on them and asking them to hold the space and hold the drum for me. And even when I wasn't feeling abundant, and the people just inviting me into their containers, or given their time to get online with me and have a conversation, and that was a lifeline. It really did save my life, save my marriage, and save myself. As I know we say no one can save us but ourselves, but just having women to hold space and hold a mirror up for you and show you where you are operating from that wounded part of you, and it's not actually true, and it's not everybody else's fault. And to be able to receive that wisdom from others and be in circle and sisterhood, and be just poured into with love, which is all we need. It just helps us to move through those clunky life transitions and come out singing. Yeah, beautiful. All right, girls. Well, I think if there's nothing else to share, we will wrap it up there. But it was beautiful to have the chats with you. And if anybody, I'm sure everybody is mad to get in touch with you and learn more from you. So where can people find you?
Me on Instagram is the best place, at Seeing the Mother.
They're beautiful.
And for me, I'm most active on LinkedIn. If you just search my name, Debbie Lucas, and my website is eyesondigitalmedia.com for my business coaching, and for my spiritual coaching work, it's debbielucas.me.
Oh, wow. God, there's all sorts of places to find you. Happy days. All right. Well, listen, thank you so much for the work that you do. Thank you for joining me on this journey of becoming the rebel matriarchs we were born to be. And yeah, we'll be seeing you all soon, I'm sure, for more magic throughout this week. So,
and thank you for all the work you have put into creating this beautiful summit. And the impact that it will have on everyone who joins and shares in what we're all sharing.
Yeah,
it's really important. It's really important, particularly at this time.
For sure.
And I'm looking forward to watching back all the videos as well, and just, you know, sitting with all the learnings and the wisdom that's getting shared all around. So thank you, Saoirse.
Beautiful. Thanks, girls. Feel your love. And it lights me up to just be able to share this with the world and to share you with the world. So thanks so much. And we'll talk again soon.
Bye-bye.